It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Let's roll on a football Friday. It is Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Welcome in. We're thrilled to have you along. A football Friday, as always. I'm Jeff Parles. Alongside me, two sports betting Hall of Famers. Sportsbook director here at the South Point, our guy Chris Andrews. And then on the far side, Vinny Magliulo, of course, of Gone Gaming. Nice poll today. The Northern Arizona getting the love today.
Yeah, we talked about on the show, on Alex's show the other day, about, well, she's substituting for Frank, my favorite college towns. Flagstaff didn't make it. We went top 5. They would have been number 6. So I wore it today.
I wore my Brooklyn college blazer.
You got the hair gel. You're good. You're in
By the
good
way,
shape.
can I say something about my friend Vinny?
Yes, go ahead.
A lot of guys, we ask everybody to hit subscribe on our
Yes.
on our. Vinny grew up in Brooklyn. Vinny knows a guy who knows a guy.
Who knows a guy?
Who knows a guy. And I'm highly recommending Vinny doesn't have to make that phone call. So if you're listening and not subscribing, you got to subscribe. I'm not saying nothing, but you know what I'm saying.
Considering to all of my Brooklyn brethren out there, you know the sign when you're coming back from Staten Island on the Verrazano Bridge and you get over to the Brooklyn side, and it says, "Welcome to Brooklyn, 4th largest city in America."
That's great.
Right? Great sign. There's over 4 million of us. Hit the button. Hit the button. That's
Yeah.
simple.
Subscribe. We don't
Thank
ask for much.
It helps us all. It helps
That's
us
right.
all when you press that button. And you know the best part about it is it's free.
It's free.
It's
Freebie.
free. You don't have to.
We'll never ask you for money.
We don't.
Not yet.
Just
We're not gonna-
come if you're in Vegas.
beg
Just
you
come to the counter, but play some bets. That's all. By the way, the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks, of
Yeah.
course,
My-
pulled off a nice win in Seattle the other night in college hoops.
Oh, did they really?
They did. They
Oh.
won that game outright as a pretty nice sized dog.
Okay. And I follow the Montana teams because my one daughter went here for a semester, left for a boyfriend that she wound up dumping like 2 weeks later. But anyway, I follow the Montana teams, and I know Montana State beat California last night. Do I have? No, I think it's Montana State beat California.
Montana State, because I was not on that game. I was on the Bison last night.
And
Who
and then
upset Montana last night.
So the Dogs won both those games. Pretty significant dogs.
Yeah,
Montana State won as a big dog, and Montana lost as a big favorite.
Yeah, I think they closed 8 on North Dakota State. Montana State was 14 and a half. Pretty significant upset. Still a long way to go for Mark Madsen there in Berkeley. At
Definitely.
Cal.
But I like Big Sky. I like those leagues because those kids play till their senior year.
Weber
it's good
State's a power in that league
they are,
usually. It's the college basketball's well underway.
True.
There are roughly 8 bajillion games today because of all these conference tournaments, and there'll be roughly 8 bajillion games every single day next week.
I was going to say, next week, a lot of these tournaments,
The Maui field might be the greatest in-season tournament I've ever seen.
This year?
Oh,
I haven't seen.
It's so good that Purdue and Gonzaga have to play each other in round 1.
No kid.
Yeah.
No, is that right?
Yeah. That's how good that
Duke
is.
Duke is on.
No, it's
oh wait, that's
that's Duke. Duke's in Atlantis. I'm pretty sure.
Are you?
But Maui this year.
No, I'm sorry, Kansas. Kansas just left the other
Kansas
day,
got the
didn't
Chaminade.
Yeah.
Chaminade Bowl.
Who's the kid that transferred into Kansas?
Hunter
I watched
Dickinson.
that game. Oh man, he is good.
Monster.
Oh,
That kid is
he was
good.
great at Michigan, and
Wow.
he's still great
You're
there.
right.
By the way, that Maui field, Tennessee, Syracuse, Gonzaga, Purdue, legitimately a round 1 game in that tournament, which is
Unbelievable.
ridiculous. Kansas and Chaminade, and then Marquette and UCLA. Ho hum. The arguably the third best matchup of the first round is UCLA Marquette.
Is that all?
Here, Jimmy, come on in, Jimmy.
Come on in. Go over.
Come on
sit
in.
on
Come
that
on
seat.
in. We got you.
You showed that quickness of the first when you stripped Deanie Mitchell at midcourt, and he called the foul.
That's why Jimmy bats leadoff. That's speed.
Jimmy Vaccaro is here. So, Jimmy,
I got a whole bunch of stuff for you guys.
Friend of you guys who comes in every single week.
Usually comes in every Friday.
Every Friday, fires off a nice sum of money.
I think it was $268,000 today.
Right on the money. That's why he's the director.
Yeah. You got a lot of tickets in your hand.
Well, all right,
from
you
this
ready?
gentleman. Yes,
We'll
please.
start him
Fire
again.
away, Jimmy.
Get your college things out so you can know the bet numbers here. All right, first one. Man, Houston plus 6.5 for 11,000 to win 10,000. That's game number 404. All right. A pick'em game. Louisville. How do they say it? Louisville.
Louisville.
It's like
Louisville.
one syllable.
Louisville.
One, yeah. He must went to Shelf One High School or something like that. All right, Louisville pick'em 11,000 to win 10,000.
That's
His bet number is 333.
so the first two games, Houston is taking on Oklahoma State. Louisville in a big one in South Beach against
That is a
Miami.
big one.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Whew, a first total for 5,000 is the San Diego State game. It's game number 429 and under 48.5 for 5,000. 5,500 to win 5,000.
Got a lot of totals this week.
So San Jose State, San Diego State on that one. What a bad year for San Diego State here in 2023.
Getting rid of the coach.
That guy was a nice guy. I met him a couple of times.
Brady Hoke.
Brady
Wasn't
Hoke,
bad.
Yeah. No, he's supposed to be a good guy.
Whatever. You know, in today's environment, they used to wait at least to the end of the season. I mean, now it's like if it's game 2 and
Well,
they
he
make a
didn't
first,
get fired, but
this was a retirement, as they would say.
You know our friend Walt. I hope he's listening because Walt listens. He's from San Diego. He told me he was
right.
sort of forced out.
get rid of him.
Yeah, he was forced out.
All right, you ready, Walt?
Yeah. He's for listening.
Game number 420, the Air Force -3, 11,000 to win 10,000.
Going against UNLV.
Yep, huge one in the Mountain West.
That's a big game.
You know, you got to give this guy here UNLV some credit. I mean,
Some credit?
I mean,
Yeah,
a lot
he
of
might
credit.
be
Going
coach of the
bowling.
year, yeah.
Going bowling.
Unbelievable.
A couple years ago, I was quoted in the paper saying Vince Lombardi couldn't win at UNLV, but Barry Odom evidently can. You know, so.
If they win their last 2 regular season games, they're 10-2. That's usually 5 seasons worth of wins.
All right,
at UNLV.
let's go
Yes.
to Wake Forest, Notre Dame game 417-14. Just another total. Over 46.5.
Okay.
No opinion?
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
let this guy fire. That's
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, we got a little action here with game number 415, Sam Houston State. Now, the only thing I can tell you about Sam Houston State, he figures to be from Texas.
You think?
It's correct.
That's all right, right?
Sam Houston State,
Plus 13.
red hot Sam Houston State, winners of 2 in a row after an 0-8 start.
All right. All right, we got a total coming up here with Florida and Missouri. Those are games 409, 410. Under 57.5 for $5,000.
Okay.
Chris, how are we doing on totals so far?
You know, my computer doesn't break them down. But
Oh,
you know,
okay.
overall, the college season has been good, not great. It's been good.
Okay, so obviously, you know, that's a pretty fair bet, 5,000 on a
He's
total.
got a bunch of them on those, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like everything else we do out there, people, and Chris obviously is the head of commander here. It's like he feels it's a fair bet. We feel it's a fair bet. And the people coming in make it a fair bet. So we get a lot of total play. I'm sure, you know, in accordance of like the amount of money we take, how big we are, whatever, you do a pretty damn good job on like giving people a fair bet for 5,000 for a total.
And I got to tell you, so our the posted limit for totals is 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
I give this guy 5,000. I got to tell you, anybody else comes in, you give me 260,000 a week in action, I'll give you 5,000 on totals. too.
Okay. All right. All right, here we go with game 397. Shmoo. Shmoo minus 8.5 for $11,000.
It's on the road at Memphis for the Mustangs.
You know, I kind of like Memphis in that game a little bit. I made the number, I think 6, but
Yeah, that's
Smoot got some offense. I got to tell you, they can run it up pretty quick.
All right, let me run a total by you guys today. 407, 408. Baylor, TCU. Over, figure this will be a high one, 59.
Yeah,
Both of those teams stink. That's my comment on that.
yeah,
game.
we're up to 61 with the total.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Baylor. I posted earlier
went
this
over
year.
a good number.
11 holograms could play defense as good as Baylor.
Let me run this by all three of you, and just like something you just every now and then at my age, things just click in and click out, or something that I might have heard about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. All right, here's the total with TCU. and Baylor. Obviously, I think the worst teams that have a shot for a total, they go over more than another team, right? Because obviously they can't stop anybody.
correct.
So you'll see a lot of movement on, teams say, wow, they're playing each other, but neither one of them are any damn good.
TCU still could get bowl eligible. They'd have to win this week as a favorite against Baylor, but then they play Norman next week, so I don't like their chances on that one.
It really is a hell of a drop for both of those schools.
Oh, yeah.
They were both. It wasn't that long ago. Baylor was in the conversation for a national championship.
Baylor won the Big 12 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and TCU, of course, the magic carpet ride to the national title game last year.
What an aberration that was.
Yeah,
but okay.
all-time aberration, yeah.
Well, here's something we just talked about. Now, game 331, 332, Michigan, Maryland, over 49. The total before it on Baylor TCU was 59. There's a 10-point difference right there. So, obviously, the Michigan game was a little better than the other two, put together. So, just something to think about.
Maryland finally got that elusive sixth win last week, beating Nebraska. Michigan, of course, we all know the chaos going around that program. Harbaugh actually accepting the suspension after they were threatening all that.
And they fired their linebacker coach today, and I heard another little rumor about them today that I don't want to repeat, but there's some other things going on with Michigan.
Yeah, some shady things.
Have you heard about that?
Yes,
Okay,
it was out on Twitter. Or
Was?
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw the same thing you saw on the Twitter. The guy says, Jimmy, go take care of it. Okay, we're going to suspend every coach.
Go take care of it. That guy's Vinny's friend from if he makes a couple of those phone calls.
The guy.
Oh, yeah?
Guy.
All right.
Right.
Okay, we got another one for you. Here's something like, let's go back just a short 15 or 20 years, where the extra games, you really wouldn't take a big bet on the extra games for a lot of, I would consider, relatively good reasoning why you don't take it. Now, here's Florida International plus 29.5. Once again, you wouldn't book too many 29.5. So, when we were kids running around the strip here, for 11,000 to win 10,000, it's game 405. Florida International plus 29.5 to win 10,000.
They're on the road in Fayetteville, taking on Arkansas, who has just had a disastrous season this year.
A couple years ago when I had my own website, I wrote an article. It's got to be 10 years ago. On these late season games, when an SEC team is playing a Southern team, and actually early in the year too, the Southern team cover more than 60% of the time.
Oh yeah,
because it's a much bigger game to them than it is to the SEC team.
The other thing, Chance, is that it wasn't so long ago that you point out Florida International. They're on the main. This is the main schedule. These are not the added games. So this used to be, but even they weren't even on the added schedule at one point.
Yeah, right.
But this Arkansas too, this is a team that, don't forget, they fired Bielema basically on the field. But think about it. I hope that doesn't happen again.
No, because I kind of like this guy, but they've had a disappointing season. They've lost a lot of close
We've seen
games.
coaches in the last. We will get to some games today, right? Where coaches in the last week. So we're not waiting until the end of the season.
I will say,
business.
If UNLV is going to be concerned about losing their coach, that's the opening that I would have my eyes.
An SEC. He came from the SEC.
Well,
right?
he was their defense after he lost the job at Mizzou. Barry Odom was the DC at Arkansas, and a good part of that team falling apart is their defense is terrible this year.
Yeah.
Now is prime time going to show up at LSU or excuse me, A&M?
A&M. Wow, that's part of the speculation.
What would you make a number?
I'd say the no, probably $4 or $5.
Okay.
No,
that's just a guess.
I would actually lay that no price. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah, not yet. He
not
needs
yet.
another year.
Some place down the road.
He's waiting. He's waiting for Nick Saban to retire. I really do think that.
Yeah, well, him and Nick are buddies.
Yeah, I think he's waiting for Saban to retire and waiting for that Alabama job.
Well, they do that stupid commercial together.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'd like to get paid what they're getting paid
It's
for
still
doing that
stupid.
stupid commercial.
Whatever. They got. Is that the one with the goat or the
Affleck.
The goat and the
Oh,
duck.
the goat's on occasionally now.
And
too.
the duck,
the goat
too.
and the duck. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Goats make more money than people anymore.
Yeah, but they don't eat people. They eat goats.
Here we go. 403-404. Oklahoma State / Houston under 58 for 5,000.
So this guy went with both the total and the side in that game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I hope Frank, our good friend Frank Nicotero, I hope he's paying attention and notices you are allowed to bet under.
I don't think it's in his DNA. He can't.
Oh no,
He can't.
Yeah, transplant.
Can't help himself.
Yeah.
He can't.
I got a little beef with you, and you're the director.
Uh-oh.
You got to, what's our guy? What's our punchline guy?
Yeah, Frank.
I'm not
Frank.
going to say his name right now. You know why? Because he dresses worse than me. I don't like that. I
Oh,
like
he
what's that outfit he had on with green? Looked like
Because he came from
Creature
those
of the
New
Black
Orleans
Lagoon.
colors.
He
Those
came-
are New Orleans
He just
colors.
got off the plane.
Yeah, he just
He
got
came-
off the plane and came to work.
Dedication.
Where was he at?
New Orleans.
Brian, see what you did by dressing in a suit every day?
I
See what you
know.
did?
Jeez.
Wow. Chris, when's the last time you had a suit on?
I had one on a little while ago.
Wait a
I
second.
can't
When's the last
remember.
time you had a suit
Yeah.
on?
Oh, I can tell you when. What year did you get married to Betty Jo?
But yeah.
1980. Yeah, I had a suit
yeah.
on.
So and here's the best part, because we were there.
Yeah.
The suit was off before
Yeah, it was
the
done.
bride and groom exited the church.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I laid 85-1, and I was too low for when she.
You know how
cracked
the
me out.
bride? You know how the bride she throws the bouquet. Jimmy
Yeah.
threw his jacket.
That's right. And meanwhile, nobody left any cash. That I can tell you. I didn't even get a freaking buffet ticket.
Jimmy,
Well, we were broke.
We were in
then.
action. We were sweating games.
All right, let's get on. Game 401, 402, just another total for you. Texas, Iowa State, under 46.5.
That is a game for Texas, of course, having to win out in order to have a shot at the college
Yeah.
football playoff. Iowa State just went to Provo last week and just destroyed BYU, who is completely lost right now.
Yeah. But that team's gotten better and better all year.
Now, ever since that horrible loss they took at Ohio early in the year,
Yeah.
they've been much better since that
Yeah.
game.
We were looking at the MAC. I don't know who I was with talking about MAC action. Wow, how did that happen early in the year? They got crushed.
It was 10-7. It was a low-scoring game. Couldn't muster more than 7 points.
Texas needs a lot of help too,
They need.
especially with the loss.
Yeah, with the loss, they need one of those teams that's in the.
I mean, if Alabama needs help, Texas needs.
Well, that will
you
be
know,
the
and
whole.
I know that they beat it, but any other one-loss team, but Oregon needs help, and Oregon's significantly
might
better,
help themselves.
stronger than
Again,
than Texas.
it's going to
right?
come down.
So,
To me, it's going to come down to who does the committee value Texas's win at Alabama more than Oregon's potential 2 wins against Washington. That's or one win against Washington. Excuse me, one win against split against Washington. Well, if Washington beats Oregon twice, I think Oregon's pretty safe. I think Washington's pretty safe.
They might.
at that
Washington
point.
will be lucky to get out of this week.
Yeah, we'll get to that game a little later. Very difficult game at Corvallis for them.
Are you done taking over?
Oh, it's all you, Jimmy. It's all you, Jimmy.
You ready? Game 402,
hit it.
plus 7.5.
Oh, he won both. Yeah, dog and under.
Taking the Cyclones.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's a high total for you guys. 397, 398. Shmoo and Memphis. Under 65.
Oh, okay.
They went both ways in that game too.
Yeah.
Favorite and under, Chris.
Favorite and under.
Favorite and under.
Mm-hmm.
Any Reno friends of mine listening? That's an old Paul Saunders play.
Well, it's hard to bet under with this because you're rooting that they score, but you don't want them to score
Not
too much.
Yeah.
Whatever. So this is another thing that guys like us pick up. You're too young yet. All right, you ready? All right, here we go. Game 395, 396. Just another total for you guys. Louisiana and Troy over 47.
Fair. I mean, they got a good number.
It's right around there, right?
I mean, it was 47, 47.5. Troy got a pretty good offense.
Got another one here for you, another total, another high one. Game 391, 392. Monroe against Mississippi, under 62.5. Are those Southern schools bet more over, Chris?
Pardon me?
Do you think those Southern schools bet more unders or overs?
Probably over.
Probably over.
Yeah.
Well, Alabama's and Georgia, if it's 28-0, and it's 2 minutes to go in the game, they still try to run. They try to run it up with. There's no nice guys in that.
Well, you need style points this time of year too.
Yes, out. Yeah. All right, here we go. The last one. Oh, another total. Not bad here. 387, 388, under 55.5 with Cal Stanford.
Mm-hmm. You know, that used to be referred to as the big game.
The big game. Yeah.
The big game. A long time. Yeah. I know that spent a lot of time in the Bay Area.
Before you throw me off the stage, we're starting to get people who want to join in on the show, and Dom's Pizzeria,
Yes.
in
Oh,
Stratford,
yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Dom's Pizzeria. We're
Stratford, Pennsylvania, yeah.
you want to watch us and you're not at home or
Yeah.
don't have access to a computer, go to Dom's Pizzeria in Trafford. We'll be shown on there.
We're also now shown Steiner's as well here in Las Vegas. The one on Buffalo right now will be on in all 3 locations soon.
Great.
Oasis as well. Oasis.
Oasis we're
on
getting on there?
and,
That's great.
And
Yeah.
Decatur.
There we
Yeah.
go.
And before I forget, on the way out, today was actually the start of the F1, the Grand Prix. People flying around the roads here in the shows around Las Vegas, and a little incident already. How could they not have one of the sewer caps not on one of the sewers when a driver hit one? So that's going to take care of him and his car.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I think I heard it ruined his car.
They had to replace a whole big thing on the bottom of it. I don't know the intricacies.
I don't know
on
it
that.
either. But some of those cars go for $25 million.
Yeah.
I don't
Like a
think I
military
would get
vehicle.
back in the car after that one. That's for sure. All right, I'm done.
Jimmy,
Okay.
thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Jimmy.
As always. Jimmy Vaccaro,
An
everyone.
American treasure.
American
everybody.
treasure
Yeah.
indeed.
Flying. Right there.
You're over 75 and a half. I'm under 78.
Do you have a meeting now? Where are you going?
Okay.
There we go. Jimmy Vaccaro, everybody. All right, Chris, Vinny, let's get through as many of these college games as we can here.
Okay.
Always awesome to have Jimmy in.
It is. Yeah.
Tonight, let's start tonight.
Okay.
2 games tonight. South Florida and Texas, San Antonio. All right. That's one of those I would imagine has more handle because it's a single game. Texas, San Antonio with actually still a shot to get to the AAC title game, amazingly enough. Right now, currently 16-point favorites. And then the other one, Coach Prime and company in action up at the Palouse, up in the Northwest there in Pullman, take on Wazoo. Has been, we've talked about this. Wazoo has been one of the bigger disappointments over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
They had that huge win over Oregon State, and they just have not been the same team since then.
They also beat Wisconsin.
Wow.
Remember, and they when they
It was back-to-back weeks, I think.
they haven't, but they haven't been the same since. I thought they would be riding some momentum. It's interesting to see how they've gone the other direction, which is a little surprising here. And again, you have a game here, right, Chris, where laying the 4 but taking the 4.5.
I got a lot of good action.
Yeah,
in this
so
one. Really good two-way. A lot of action on the total, mostly on the under. They bet me under 64, under 63. Somebody did bet me back over 62, but then back under 61, so we're at 60 on this game.
Man.
The real good action here. The other game, not as much action and not too much on the side, but they bet me under, got under 67.
This is a loser goes home match. Loser, this one will have loss number 7. See you later. No bowl. Wazoo was 4-0. They were 4-0 and have lost 6 straight, and they've done it. Haven't just done it in one fashion or another. They've done it in every fashion, where the last 3 weeks, you lose to Arizona State, not good. You lose to Stanford, 10-7.
That's bad.
Really bad. And you'll give up 42 to Cal and a 42-39. So they've done it either with limited offense or no defense. So they've gotten creative. And then, by the way, they have the Apple Cup the final week of the season. So good luck getting to win 6 anyway, having to go to Seattle in what will be the final Apple Cup for a while. As we know, of course, all those big intrastate rivalries not going to be played for a while up in the Pacific Northwest.
Horrible.
Speaking of a team that getting the short end of it here, Chris, James Madison. Let's go there. James Madison hosting Appalachian State. The Dukes have been the darlings. They have college game day this week. We talked about a lot of their games have been heavy handle games this year. And Chris, this is an interesting one here where the Dukes are 9. You open 12. So it's been a one-way steady street on the Appalachian State Mountaineers here on the road in Harrisonburg, Virginia here.
Yeah, all money on the dog. Like you said, we opened 12 down to 9. I mean, that's a pretty significant move. A lot of action on the total. Actually, two-way. They bet me under 56, under 56.5, back over 55. and I'm back up to 56 on the game, but a lot of action. But you talked about how Madison got screwed.
Oh, yeah.
What kills me, Jeff, I mean, what kills me is how they tell you all these rules are in place to protect the student athlete. It's just such a bunch of crap. All it does is protect the biggest schools because they're the ones that make all the rules. I remember, God, this got to be 10, 15 years ago when Richmond moved into a new conference, basketball I'm talking about. And they said, well, they're not eligible to win the conference. And they waltzed through the conference. Well, again, it's not fair to the others. Not fair to who? These kids are out playing for their lives. And you got James Madison here, too. These kids are laying it on the line. Football is, this is not an easy sport. And you're punishing these kids that have had a tremendously successful season. By the way, they were extremely successful and as an FCS team as well.
It was them and North Dakota State were the two powers in the FCS forever.
Yeah.
And what they've done is extraordinary. And the fact that this is year 2 in FBS, and they're going to go 12-0 in the regular season. And again, they probably will get a bowl bid because there won't be enough 6-win teams.
Right.
But the fact that they are not going to be in the Sun Belt Championship game, where also, by the way, they're better than Tulane is. And they're losing out on a potential possibility to play in a New Year's Six Bowl here out of this, on top of all this, this nonsense.
I think, those two things there. I think had they finished 12-0, they probably would have been in a New Year's Six game.
13-0 with the conference championship.
I mean, to these kids and to these schools, winning your conference is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
You put that trophy in your trophy case and hang it on your mantle. I mean, it's huge. And for them to be denied the opportunity to do that, I think is just disgraceful.
It's ridiculous.
I think there'll be some support for Madison, probably either tonight or tomorrow
back in the morning.
I would be surprised because they're just too good a team not to. And again, the fact that this game's moved 3 points, right, Chris? I have to believe, going through getting below a number like 10, a key number like 10. I also believe that there will not be enough 6-win teams, and this team is going to wind up in a bowl game, and I hope they do.
I would be surprised if there's enough. I would be surprised if there's enough teams.
They've been struggling for ever since they went to 43. How many?
41 now. 41, not counting the national title game.
Not enough. By
the way, I made the number 12, so I thought the opening number was fine.
Let's go to Cincinnati and West Virginia real quick, Chris, because this is one of those. The main reason I'm bringing this up is the market's all over the place on this game. Where the market, there are some books that have 4.5 on West Virginia now. You guys right now have the market high, tied with a few other books at 6 on West Virginia. Mm-hmm. You opened at 7. I thought that number was good at 7, and the bettors have just taken this thing down.
Well, my numbers came to 8.
Yeah,
I used 7 because I saw a lot of lower numbers around. But I did open the 7, and they told me I was wrong. They took the 7, took the 6.5, and I actually have a little bit of money on West Virginia as well. So I'm not in that bad a shape on this game.
I love Chris's point about listen, my number came to this, right? And there's probably folks out there saying, well, why didn't you just hang it that way? Well, because you see what's happening out there, and there's an element of to our jobs and the way we book games to where there's some anticipation. If you want to guarantee yourself one-way action, then you just, if you're that, if there's a significant difference, then you post it up and you say, I don't care. But it's not it's not always the best philosophy because the market is going to, and you watch. Not only you're part of the market, you're watching the market and how things are going. So there's an element of anticipation too. So
they took 7. Why would I let them take 8?
There you go.
Yeah. No, 100%. I thought West Virginia was a reasonable bet at 7. Definitely a reasonable bet at the 5.5s that are out there.
That's
right
looks
now.
like the main number right now.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I am surprised with how that played out. Cincinnati won on the road at Houston last week. Big deal.
This is a bit of a rival. There's a regional
geographical rivalry.
So a lot of recruiting implications to this game.
Let's go to Georgia at Tennessee. Chris, you haven't moved this number all week.
No.
You've been sitting at 10 all week. There is some 9.5 in the market. Total's gone up a half point from 58.5 to 59. Georgia was Georgia last week. They just totally pummeled after the first quarter and a half, totally pummeled and ran Ole Miss out of the building. Tennessee kind of got what was coming for them after how they ran it up on Missouri a year ago.
Yeah, they did.
And Mizzou destroyed them in the second half last week, a 36-7 loss for the Vols. Chris, I'm a little bit surprised that the bettors have not moved this on you. There is, like I said, a lot of 9.5 in the market.
There's a lot of 9.5. I got to tell you, and here's something to take note of for you handicappers out there. My numbers came to 7 on this game.
Okay.
But the more I looked at it, and I'm going to thank my good friend over here, Vinny, for telling me this team is a lot better with and I'm terrible with the names. I'm not even going to guess. The tight end that came back for
Bowers
was just a big difference for this team. And I did not make a strong enough adjustment with him being back. I mean, he really is a significant guy, and I think he probably moves him up. What, can a tight end mean 2 points? I think he might.
In this case, I agree.
I think he might. So if I moved him up 2 points from the 7 that my original power ratings came to, that makes it a 9. So I mean, 10 maybe still a little bit high. But I'm willing to take a bet, and if you guys want to come in and bet, I got the best number around. I think if I go to 9.5 or even 9, I'll get plenty of Georgia money back. But I think, Georgia just dominated this team last year, was just in a much superior class physically. And I think it's even more so this year.
And I will say this, Vinny, and Chris just made my point for me there. If you're getting physically outclassed by Mizzou, you're going to get physically outclassed by Georgia. And that's what I think is going to happen to Tennessee tomorrow afternoon.
Great points, guys. Here's what's scary for the rest of the country. Georgia's healthy now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's remember this.
Yeah,
Not only is Bowers came back last week, but let's remember this. While he was hurt, McConkey developed into he was the main receiver, right? But what we have to remember is McConkey missed the first few. He was hurt early in the season. Then Bowers got hurt. Last week was the first time that they've been together since probably week 1. Okay? So the fact that this team is getting healthy, not only offensively, because we know their defense has really carried them for a good part of the season. That's the scary part. And this team is in a position to three-peat. You talk about balance and transfer portal and everything that's going on. That's pretty scary when you consider it.
Vinny, we talked about power rankings throughout the year, of course. You were higher on Alabama than some. That SEC title game right now that we know is going to happen in 2 weeks. But this is for both of you. What would you make that right now? I know there's some that already opened it at 3, got bet to 4.
I saw Georgia favored.
Yes, Georgia favored against Alabama.
I personally think I don't have it that high. On the neutral field, which it's going to be.
Yep.
I've got it lower. I got about 2, 1.5. That's me personally, but again.
And of course, in Atlanta, both
they'll lay 1.5 and 2 to get to 3.
Both teams will have plenty of fans in the building at Mercedes.
If we hung it up 1.5 or 2, I know they're gonna bet. So probably, but from a power rating standpoint, I've got about 1.5 to 2.
Alabama does not play an FBS team this week. They play Chattanooga, so those lines will come up tomorrow morning. But Alabama, to me, Jalen Milrose found it.
He got benched in that game and has been a different player since.
He's been, especially the last month, he's been as good as anyone in the country at the quarterback position.
Yeah. My numbers come to 3.
Okay.
So,
I think that'll be I think that will be a take for me in the SEC title.
Think so?
Yeah, I think it'll be a take.
I could see laying 1.5. Well, I could see laying 2, but I also could see taking 3 in that game. I think it's going to be a terrific betting game. There's no question about it.
Well, that game always is an amazing betting game.
That'll be a great game.
Those are games that you love to book.
Game, All right, let's go to Michigan. They're on the road in College Park to take on the Terps. Maryland finally win number 6. Took them 5 weeks, but they got there, so they're going to a bowl. Chris opened 19.5, down to 19 yesterday. Totals bounced around a little bit from 50 to 49, back to 49.5 on this. We know Jim Harbaugh won't be on the sidelines. He is traveling to College Park with his team. So it's really just a suspension that you just can't be on the sidelines during these games. So, I found nothing to bet in this game because I don't like Maryland. And it is a look-ahead spot because Michigan, of course, has Ohio State next week.
Well, again, my power ratings come to 21.
Okay.
Kind of pretty close. And then you take into the fact they fired their linebacker coach or some things going on. Harbaugh won't be on the sidelines. They got Ohio State next week. So I opened this game 19.5. I was fine with that number, even though it was a little under my power ratings. They took the 19.5, which I definitely could see But we'll get plenty of Michigan money tomorrow, I believe, and we'll be okay on the game. But no, I have no real opinion here.
I think one of the things that's galvanized this team is this us against the world mentality. Harbaugh does everything except go to the stadium and be on the sideline. He's in meetings. He runs the meetings. He's at the hotel. He's doing everything. I credit the staff and the players for the way they've rallied. And I think part of that rally includes, listen, we're not going to get caught in a look-ahead spot because we're not going to blow the chance next, against Ohio State going into that game by, taking this one too lightly. Again, not saying they're going to cover the game, win the game or cover. They still have to win the game. But if you watch what was as important last week was to me the players' post-game conference or comments. As much as, or even more so than the coaches. I mean, this is a laser-focused group of players that they just don't like what's happened, and frankly, I don't blame them.
Well, I think the other thing you have to look at, I mean, these guys aren't here every single year.
Yeah.
Of course.
Like Georgia, Alabama, the fans almost take it for granted. Michigan hasn't won a national championship in a long time.
Well, they would be their third straight playoff appearance if they get there. It's starting to get normalized a little bit. And, of course, with the 12 team coming, you expect these Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, at least three of them to be there every single year. Granted, of course, the Big 10 with 20 is going to look a lot
The Big 20?
look a lot different.
When USC and UCLA join next
Oregon,
year.
Washington. It'd be a lot different looking. By the way, I'll ask you guys this too. Right now, of course, you'll open this on Monday, but Michigan, Ohio State, as of this moment, of course, we have to see.
Michigan, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
in Ann Arbor. Michigan, of course, winning the last 2 years, including in Columbus a year ago.
Give me just one.
Yeah,
second.
no problem. One of the bigger home field advantages in the country as well. There in Ann Arbor. Of course, that will be a noon kick a week from Saturday.
My numbers look a little high, but my numbers come to Michigan 6.
Ooh.
Looks a little high.
And that feels a little high.
Looks a little high.
Yeah.
But I'm just going pure power rating numbers,
Okay.
So, by the
including
way,
the home field.
By the way, in the games of the year back in the spring, actually with the summer, we waited this year because of the transfer portal. We was 4. They took it, Chris. Remember, they took the 4 and the 3.5. My numbers come to 5, so I'm right there with Chris. I mean, 6 I could.
You know what? This will be a pretty good betting game too, Jeff.
Oh, I would say so.
Oh, yeah.
I would say so. That's going to be a pretty darn
In
good
essence,
betting
it's a
game.
playoff game, right?
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, yeah,
it's a play-in game, right?
You want your 12-team playoff? All right, there you go.
There's one.
That's one of them. That's going to determine more than likely the 2 seed in the college football playoff, assuming Georgia wins out. If Georgia wins out, they're getting the 1 seed yet again. All right, big implications in the ACC on this one. Louisville on the road at Miami. Chris, up to 1 on the cards here in South Beach. There is some picks still out there. 46.5 here. Louisville wins this game. They are heading to Charlotte to take on Florida State in 2 weeks.
I kind of like Miami in this game. I made them a very slight favorite, and again, you're cutting it pretty close. Louisville's up to 1. But maybe if it goes a little higher, if I was out there playing, maybe I'd look to take any kind of plus money on the Miami team. I just thought they should be a very, very slight favorite here at home. But Louisville, that's another team. I think they made a good coaching change from last year, and I think it's a very good team. I don't know that they could beat Florida State though, but I think they, this is going to be for the opportunity to do that.
Difficult spot, tough game, right? Even with Miami's trials and tribulations this year.
It's one way to put it.
But this is the thing that concerns me here from a Louisville perspective is they've got some offensive line injuries that you're saying, well, and they're probably not going to be at 100% on the offensive line. They're going to be missing some key pieces, but they need them healthy. But they got to win this game to get to the game where they, for the title game. So it's a difficult spot. I think it's going to bounce back and forth between pick and And would it shock me if Miami closed one? No,
No.
it really wouldn't, to be honest.
Weird spot also because the Bluegrass Showdown's next week also. A big rivalry
Yeah.
game against Kentucky.
That's true. And usually that game in recent years has been
That's been for bowl eligibility.
but that's also been in the beginning of the season, right? A lot of the
I
times
think-
lot
it's
of
kind
times,
of it's
yeah.
kind of bounced back and
flipped
forth.
between
the
beginning and the
it's
end.
either at the
Exactly.
beginning or it's
Yeah.
either at the end. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see
Who's
how
your
that.
wife like?
Well, so my wife, who's from Kentucky, it's you talk about. I know the Civil War is technically in Oregon, between Oregon and Oregon State. No, it's in my in-laws' house. So my father-in-law, big Louisville fan, and the reason he was a Louisville fan is because everybody was just rooting for Kentucky, and he's someone I'm rooting for the other side. My wife's a Cats fan, big go Big Blue.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I knew there was some kind of story.
Like when
behind that.
there's
That's
red,
actually better than I was expecting. in all
when
honesty.
there's red, I've got to qualify. It's like for St. John's. it's got to be qualified.
All right, let's touch Ohio State here real quick, Chris. Ohio State taking on Minnesota. A pretty mediocre year for the Gophers, all things considered. They need one more win in order to get bowl eligible. Not coming this week. 28-point dogs in the shoe. Senior day for the Buckeyes. 49.5. You know, this is one of the few games you really haven't had to move at all on this one.
I got a little bit of money plus 28.
Yeah.
My power ratings came to 30. You know, if they fill me up, I'll move it down to 27.5. But so far, I've gotten play, but not enough to move me. And hey, number's sitting there. If you want to play it, there it is. And if you move me down to 27.5, we'll be more than happy to move it down there.
Two-way action at 28.
There we go. There we go.
I mean, but
Hey,
look,
it's a key number.
if Michigan's in a look-ahead spot, even with its senior day, you could say the same thing about Ohio State here, right? I mean, it's probably a little more dangerous to be in that position on the road, like Michigan is. I think it's a better opponent for Michigan as well, but Ohio State's pretty focused here too. Let's remember this: they've lost the last 2 years in a row.
Yep.
To Michigan. So
Minnesota's a big disappointment to me. I thought they'd be a lot better.
We had them.
I really
We
did.
figured they'd be better, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Going
That
into
whole
the season.
Big Ten West, other than Iowa, has been a big or actually can't say that because Northwestern has been
Yeah.
a shocking positive this year for
Yeah.
them. on
Rewarding the
football
coach
field.
too. With
Yeah, Braun
with-
gets the job
Good for him.
permanently, and he's earned it with
Good
the
for
fact that
him.
that team, I thought was going to be lucky to win 2.
Yeah.
Probably going to go to
Mhm.
a bowl, sitting at 5-5. All right, I want to bring this game up. It's random, but Vinny brought it up when he was in with us on Monday, so I got to bring it up. Rice at Charlotte.
Chrissy.
Chris,
Yeah.
It'd been one of these games you bounced all over the place. 2, 2.5, 3, 2.5, 3. Total hasn't moved, but Vinny brought it up on Monday as one of the heavier handle games as of Monday.
You cannot believe the handle I have on this game. I mean, I've kind of liked Rice a little bit all year. I made the number a little bit higher, but I mean, these guys, they rattled the board like crazy on this game. And, I guess Rice has a questionable quarterback, but they still played well. But this is just one of those unbelievable games. You never know. And sometimes Michael Gaughan will call me and says, "Why, it's Michael, that's what the point spread's for. It's the equalizer. We evidently did our job. We got great two-way action on this one."
So I'm walking into the studio the other day. I said, "Chris, anything else? We're going to go over the usual things." He goes, "Wait, hold on a second. You got to mention this game." I said, "Yeah, what?" He goes, "Rice and Charlotte." He goes, "Just big bets, lots of two-way action, a lot of there's again to Chris's point. If it's the point spread and there's something that it entices somebody, look, you know what? Whether maybe it's an injury, right? I mean, Rice's quarterback I think he's questionable in this. I think he
he's
leave the last game with a concussion. It was in concussion protocol, right? But you know what? Hadn't stopped the folks from getting involved.
It's incredible. You never know. You never know which games are going to light up the board, but this one has so far. All right, speaking of lighting up the board, what's going on? We got an Iowa total at 33? Come on now. What's happening here?
Not the lowest total on the board,
No,
Jeff.
it's not. It's
Navy's the lower total.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
and then forget the Navy game for a second. This game's been pounded to the over here, Chris.
They lit it up last week. Iowa put 22 on the board, Jeff.
And 400 yards, no less.
You weren't sweating that total, were you, last week?
No,
Jeff?
I wasn't, but it was one of those where it's like, oh, this is over. And then I look up at the screen, and Iowa has the ball inside the 20-yard line with 4 minutes left at 22. It's like, what happened here? But, Chris, Illinois, this has actually been a very interesting betting game.
Good action on this one, too.
Yeah. Total from 30.5 to 33.
Yeah.
And Iowa from 3 to 3.5 to 3, now to 2.5. So you got the toggler both ways here.
Yeah. By the way, I think I wrote down something. Got a lot of money line play on the dog. What game number is that? 359.
359.
359, 360.
359.
I got just a little bit of money line play on that game. So, so I don't know. A lot of action there. Again, one of those weird games. Would you pay a big part of your bankroll to go and watch this game? I doubt it. But guys have a lot of opinions and want to put their money on it to make a bet. That's for sure.
I actually agree with the move from 30.5 to 33.
Do you really?
I actually do because Illinois has been weird this year.
That's another team that's disappointed me quite a bit.
I mean, they're 5-5. They're going to have to probably beat Northwestern next week. I don't see them winning in Iowa City here on Saturday. But, last week they played a 48-45 game against Indiana, which was one of the wilder games of Saturday last week.
Yeah, this was a big disappointment to me, Illinois.
A couple of things. First of all, I would right there. They're bizarre. Bizarre things happen in their games, right? And especially during the course of the season. Would it shock you really, though, if Illinois won this game?
No,
I don't know. It was a surprise, but not a shock, right? It
wouldn't be a shock.
I do want to mention one thing too, because we've said it a couple of times. And we passed it, but I do want to point out one thing because of a flip of favorites too.
Sure.
We talked about Northwestern.
Yep.
Coach got rewarded. They're home against Purdue this week. They opened as a 2-point favorite. At one point, Purdue was a 3-point favorite. Now I don't know if it's maybe they're going to rest on their laurels or whatever the case may be. But I think it's going to come back down because we do have 2.5 now. I believe there'll be some Northwestern money. I'm just bringing it up because it was a flip of favorites.
No problem, Vinny. And for me, I think the move was wrong. Personally,
I think it comes back down. That's what I'm saying. So if you're interested in Northwestern, you're going to get them as a dog now, and
forget the points now. Just take the nice price.
It's a money line.
Yeah, take the nice money line price, and if Purdue beats you, so
just
be it.
I didn't want to make sure that we pointed that out because it is a change of favorites.
Right now you can get $1.30. I got $1.25 in my store,
but
you can get $1.30 around. Yeah.
Sunflower Showdown, K-State at Kansas. Hey, a rivalry that actually exists past this year.
Yeah.
Quarterback questions at KU here. Of course,
I think they're down to their third quarterback.
Jalen Daniels announcing that he's not coming back again this year, but he will return next year, so that's good news for 24 for KU, but it doesn't help him here. Jason Bean left that game last week in the first quarter with an ankle injury. It does not look like he's going to go based off the way this number has moved. So we'll see the third quarterback, Ballard, who's okay last week against Texas Tech. And for Kansas State, look, Kansas State, since that loss to Oklahoma State 5 weeks ago, they lost to Texas by 3. Their other games, they beat Texas Tech 38-21. That was the close game. 41-3 over TCU, 41-0 over Houston, and 59-25 over Baylor. They have pummeled mediocre to bad teams this year. I don't want to throw Kansas in that scenario, but it is a lot to ask a third-string quarterback to keep that game tight against a K-State team that should be able to handle that defense.
Yeah, I think I opened this game 8, if I remember correctly.
7.
They laid me to 7 pretty quick. And once I found out the quarterback situation, I just kept raising it. I think 10. It'd be hard pressed to take the 10. I'll tell you the truth. It's hard.
It's one of those where it's like, all right, if Bean is in this game, it would have been a take at 7.
I thought 7 was a good number.
Yeah, I thought it was a good number, and I thought that was a take at 7. Anything north of 7 would have been an auto take for me. Just again, when you're dealing with a kid who I thought was okay last week against Texas Tech, they couldn't punch the ball in the end zone. That's why they lost that game. But you're kind of like, if you somehow get north of 10, it's almost like, all right, I'm obliged. And if K-State blows me out, they blow me out.
By the way, 2 really good coaches. Both these coaches deserve a lot of credit.
Kleiman and Leipold. Excellent.
What they did with these programs, because Kansas has been bad for most of my life. And Kansas State was good, bad, good, bad. You know, they had some great years under Snyder and then kind of fell away a little bit. But both these teams, both these coaches really deserve a lot of credit.
I'm glad this rivalry is going to stay intact.
Yeah.
Yep,
actually.
not going anywhere. Let's go to Arizona and Utah here. This is a fascinating game to me, where Arizona is scorching hot right now. What a year. What a great job by Jedfish. They're 7-3. Incredible what the Wildcats have done. Utah, you know what? They had their shot last week. Had a shot to knock out Washington. Couldn't quite do it. Second half, Utah's offense came crashing back to earth in that second half, losing by a touchdown. Covering, thank you to the defender on Washington who decided to pull the Deshaun Jackson. If you had Utah last week, got you there because of that. Chris, you know, this is an interesting line to me. I thought Utah was actually going to come a road favorite in this game, and instead Arizona comes the slightest of home favorites right now, 1.5. Some one out there as well.
I made Utah 1 in the game. So, again, cutting it pretty close. But Utah, you know, I know they had quarterback problems all year. I understand that. But still very disappointing to me what they've done. And take the exact opposite evaluation of Arizona. I thought that they would struggle this year. I'd have to go look and see what I have my season win totals on them. Not very high, I can tell you that. But they've played tremendous football. Great accolades to that coach for what he's done with this year. And like I said, I made Utah 1. That's nothing that I would play here, but definitely the money on Arizona here.
Jeff, a month ago, Utah would have been a favorite in this game.
Maybe even 3 weeks ago, they would have been a favorite.
I mean, but you hit you and Chris hit on the key points, and it starts with the coaching.
Yeah, Arizona with if you win this game, they're not going 9-3. I mean, that is an amazing accomplishment for a team that was picked at the bottom of the conference.
Coaching in consideration.
Yeah.
Nationally, not just conference.
He deserves it. I don't know. Again, it's kind of the same.
Not going to happen.
Kind of the same thing with Barry Odom, where I didn't think he'll be ignored in the national landscape. But Fish has done as good of a job as anyone this year. All right, Oregon, real quick. Oregon's 25 against Arizona State. 54.
Up 3 points.
Yeah, up 3 points. Civil War next week. Kind of a look-ahead spot. But Arizona State, they sometimes have looked okay.
Yeah.
They had the win against Wazoo. They should have beat Washington in Seattle. But this, if the Ducks are focused here, I think that 25 is right on there, Chris.
I think it's a little high.
A little high?
I really do. I think it's a little too high. I think, can they be focused for this one with the Civil War coming up, last time ever? And I don't know. I think Arizona State right now, I think they show up for this game. I kind of like the dog in this one.
I mean, you can't lay it at this point, right? I mean,
you're not laying the bet
through 23 and 24. So, but Oregon's on a mission.
Yep.
Yeah.
How about the 10 a.m. kick in Provo? You like that, Chris? Hey, this just shows what is. Again, Sataki, to me, I never really loved the head coach of BYU.
Mm-hmm.
What has transpired the last month there should never be allowed to transpire at BYU. And they're 24.5 against Oklahoma here, where, you know what the scary part of it is? I'm not sure if that's enough with the way that BYU has looked and now into the second quarterback with Slovis not playing again.
Yeah, that's a little high.
Yeah, it's
I
very
made
high.
it 20 myself,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be beating down the doors to bet BYU. I can tell you that. And you're right. I didn't really even look at that time. That's a weird. Why would they do that? Why would they do stuff?
Senior day in Provo. Well, you know what? There won't be many people hungover going to the game now in Provo. So,
no.
All right, let's go to the big one then. Let's go to the big one. Corvallis, the site. How about that? Corvallis in big game. You don't say that very often. This is the fourth time ever that Washington and Oregon State are going to play each other when they're ranked in the top 15. How about that, Chris? And Washington, undefeated, an underdog in this one. Beavers, a 1.5-point favorite. The total is 62, as high as 2. This just looks like this is going to be a great football game that I will be very happy not to place a wager on, at least pre-flop here.
Well, this is one of those where I really try to be as objective as possible when I make my power ratings. And that is at that point just addition and subtraction to come up with my number. Well, I came up with Oregon State 2. And as soon as I wrote that down, I said, wait a second, can that be right? No, yeah, that's it. That's, and evidently, we're looking at 1.5 for the number. So I guess it wasn't that far off. But I think this is going to be a terrific game. I have a kid that lives in Seattle, so I'm kind of, ordinarily going to root for Washington unless I'm turned around bet-wise. But I think this is going to be a great game. And, I've been on that Oregon State campus, too, and I took my daughter around a bunch of schools on the West Coast and really like that campus. Great one. And you could see where, I'm glad to see they now have such a good football team.
Listen, tough place to get to as well, right? We talk about some difficult travel. Now, probably
not too bad
a little
for
bit
Washington.
more for Washington, right?
Yeah.
Not as much of a factor. But again, give them credit for the way they've found ways to win games. But when you look at the Oregon trajectory since the loss to Washington, and Washington's, again, to their credit, escaped a couple of times. This is a tricky spot here. By the way, this is also a classic example of a difference between ratings and polls, right? Rankings. Forget if anybody thinks that Washington, if Oregon State wins this game, it's not an upset. Okay, they're the favorite. They're home, and forget about this ratings, rankings. Okay. Don't determine polls. Don't determine point spreads.
Oh, and also too, you're just looking at the college football rankings. I mean, Oregon State's 11. Like they're if this was a 12-team playoff, they're in it right now.
And they should be.
As of this moment, I agree with you.
Well, I think Kansas is ranked above Kansas State.
No, K-State's now ahead of them now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. K-State is now 4 slots ahead.
Okay. Well, that's a lot for a 10-point dog at home.
Just a smidge, I would say. All right. Let's get a few more before we swap over to the NFL. The mustard, the mustard's out of it in the LA Bowl. I mean, UCLA. I mean, sounds like Chip Kelly might be on his way out. USC, obviously, well documented the struggles they've had this year. Southern Cal is a 5-point favorite at the 5.5-point favorite at the Coliseum. Total 64. Two teams that have been a monster disappointment in the Pac.
Both of them. I made the game 7. I don't know what happened to Chip Kelly. I used to really like him. Thought he was really smart and innovative. But the fact is, he has not done a very good job at UCLA.
Nope.
And that being said, USC, talk about 11 holograms on defense. That's probably what it seems like what USC's playing. Listen, it's still going to be a good game, but it's fun to watch. Greatest uniform game in all of college.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe in all of sports.
I think it is.
So that'll be fun to watch in that sense. But a lot of money shown on the dog. And you know what, Jeff? I'm okay with that. I made it a little higher. We'll see. I'll probably need USC in this game.
This is the season finale for USC, so this is more likely than not it's the final game we see Caleb Williams in red and yellow for that one. All right. Just looking down the board here, I got to bring it up because it's a huge game in the Big 12. Jimmy mentioned it earlier with your big player, Chris. Iowa State taking on Texas. Iowa State went to Provo and just destroyed BYU last week. Texas, they got Quinn Ewers back. They got a nice win. They got a lot more uncomfortable than it needed to be at the end of the game against TCU. Down to 7 on this one now, which is the market low right now in this game.
Well, I made it 8. That's what my power ratings came to, and I think that's where we opened it. But they bet me the dog, and you saw the guy that came in and with when Jimmy came in with the guy's tickets. Took the 7.5, so we're down to 7. Looks like I'll probably be needing Texas in this game, but you never know. We still got 24 hours until game time. I think we won't be searching too hard for Texas money. It'll show up.
5 o'clock Pacific start, positioned nicely. Going to be a lot going to it, and that's going to impact how this number moves.
Missouri and Florida. Tigers have a New Year's Six Bowl in their grasp. Win the last 2 games, probably will get either to Atlanta or Dallas. Chris, you guys are the market high on this game on Mizzou, 12.5. There's even some 11 out there in the market right now. 56.5 the total, and you know what? I actually agree with the move on this one, just more so of a fade of Florida more than anything.
Yeah, I thought I made the number 12, and again, when I made it, I thought, wow, that looks a little high, but Missouri is playing really well, Florida not so much, but they laid me the numbers here, Jeff. That's that's why we're up that high. I think Jimmy had a ticket on them on Missouri for 10,000. Yeah, so we're up to 12.5. Nobody's coming in and taking it. I was kind of hoping they would take at least a little bit back, but I can see it. Missouri's playing really well. Florida, I think, another team we've had our doubts about them all year, and Missouri has just gotten better and better as the year's gone on.
I like the way this Missouri team battles. Your alma mater fights, Jeff, and we did get a limit play too on the total. This total opened 59 down to 56.5. I think there'll be some over money as we get into Saturday here. Wouldn't shock me, but just the kind of sentiment, the way folks view this matchup.
One last one, and I have to do it because it's the biggest game UNLV has played in a long time.
Sure.
In Colorado Springs, taking on Air Force. If UNLV wins on Saturday and then beats San Jose State at Allegiant Stadium, UNLV is going to the Mountain West title game. And forget going, they're hosting it if they win these last two games. But Air Force, Chris, I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what's happened to Air Force these last 2 weeks, where they looked like a dominant team in that league, and then Army beats them handily.
They had 6 turnovers in that game.
Even so.
Okay, all right.
Well, 6 turnovers.
Can't survive.
What's that?
Can't survive.
And then last week, the late night in Hawaii.
That's the one that really bothered me.
They turned it over 4 times in that one, too. But even so, his Air Force team that was dominant through their first 9 games are now leaking oil. 3, the number here, Chris, right now on this one.
All right, I'm kind of like you. I didn't know what to make of those but the last game really bugged me. I made this number 2.
Okay.
So I kind of like UNLV in this game, but we've been doing some great action between the 3 and 3.5. But I've been kind of a closet Air Force fan all these years. I've said it on this show. I watched them play football, and I'm glad they're the guys defending our country. Well, I'm glad they weren't defending it the last 2 weeks because we might be in a little bit of trouble. But I don't know. I think it's a really tough game. Like I said, I made it a little bit lower. But I'm not sure who we're going to need in this one. Whoever it is, that's who I'm going to be pulling for.
UNLV improves, and so does the action on their games.
Yeah. Again, if they win these last 2 games, year 1 with Barry Odom, where the only 2 losses, one of them was at Michigan. No, nothing wrong with that.
Covered.
They did.
Cover, right. That's
they
right.
did. And then the other one was that weird game at Fresno that they had plenty of opportunities to win and just couldn't find a way.
And then they came all the way back, and I remember they were down, and they had a chance to win that game.
They were up 10 at halftime, horrible third quarter, and then 2 red zone drives with no points in the fourth quarter. But wild story nonetheless on a UNLV team that, again, 10 wins could have very easily been 5 or 6 seasons earlier in the decade, and here they are with a legit shot at 10 wins on the season. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we go to the NFL, and we're going to begin with what happened last night because significant injury to Joe Burrow is going to end his season. We'll ask the guys how that moves future books and more on Cincinnati and at AFC North, which looks wide open for those wild card spots. Next on Sports by the Book.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, 777s, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world. Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Football Friday continues on Sports by the Book. Happy to be with you. I'm Jeff Parles. Chris Andrews is here. Vinny Magliulo is here. We saw Jimmy Vaccaro earlier. Jimmy is probably at the spa right now, I would make a guess, right?
Holding a briefing.
Yeah, it's
Say safe bet.
safer than betting Oklahoma pick'em.
Oh, there we go. Very, very good. Very good. All right, let's get into it. Before we get to the games on Sunday. Of course, last night, Baltimore, a comfortable win, a pretty easy cover, 34-20. Game goes over, a rare primetime over in that game last night. But that's not the big result here. The big result here is that Joe Burrow's season is over. A ligament tear in his wrist, in his throwing hand. He's done. Zach Taylor confirmed that this morning. Going to get surgery. So Jake Browning will be handed the keys to the car there in Cincinnati, Chris. And look, before last night, Mr. Browning had one career pass. So we really have no idea what we're getting. But this is, Vinny, you and I talked about this before the year. To me, this is the biggest QB1 to QB2 drop in the NFL. If we're talking about
What do
the
you
regular,
make the difference?
I think it's a whole touchdown.
Okay.
I think it's a whole touchdown.
Well, they asked me today,
Yeah.
Patrick Everson, good
Yep.
friend of ours. I told him the way Burrow's played this year, I make it 6.
Okay.
I says,
I agree.
ordinary Burrow, I'd make it 7.
Right.
But he's kind of had his troubles this year. He's, right in that area.
And for now, just looking at Chris, you obviously upped the odds on the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
which they're 5-5. Even if Burrow stayed healthy and they lost last night, it was still going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And now with Browning, I just don't see how that team gets to more than 7 wins at this rate, especially where they get Pittsburgh twice. I think we all know what's going to happen in those 2 games.
14-13.
Steelers will find a way in both of
Yeah.
them probably. They still have to play Kansas City. They have to go on the road to Jacksonville on a Monday
they have
night.
a tough road.
They have a tough road ahead, and sometimes you just have years where nothing goes your way, and this just happened to be that year for Cincinnati. Even in a year where it's weird to say that 2 of the AFC favorites are having that type of year, but them and Buffalo are both having that type of year. But Cincinnati a lot worse off now.
Vinny, help me. Was I down to 8-1? I think.
Yeah, it was. They were below.
we-
They were actually lower, Chris. At one point, I think, especially when they got on that little bit of a run. Then
we had a lot of money.
Than the Ravens, and there was money on them all.
Ton of money.
Summer.
If you look
long.
at my board, they're other than the Raiders, I think they're the worst team for me in the Super Bowl. So I had them pretty low. I jacked them up to 30 this morning. So I mean, and even that's probably too low.
All I'm going to say is I think you're safe on both accounts. I think you're safe on the Bengals
Raiders
account.
are 5-5.
It's okay.
I know, Jeff. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Oh, I know. We'll get to that Raider game. I think they're going to
They
get.
can't play the Jets and the Giants every week. So.
You beat me to
Ouch.
it. Yeah, you beat me to it.
Let's remember this for a variety of reasons, and obviously, in this case, you're talking about an injury to the key player, right? There's always about 4 or 5 teams that didn't make the playoffs the year before that do in the following year, and vice versa, right? So here you've got a situation where, and by the way, that money that was played on them over the summer, don't forget, Burrow missed the entire preseason, right? As a precaution with the calf injury. So, but people still felt that the Bengals were, one of the teams that they wanted to back in during the summer and in the early part of the season in the future book. So,
Vinny, 3 weeks ago, just looking at the midway point,
sure,
I had thought that they were the most dangerous team in the NFL.
Before
evidently, a lot of people did.
Burrow was healthy.
Yeah,
They looked better.
Yeah.
They had and then You lose the game last week against Houston, and now this happens, and
Right.
it's lights out. See you later. It's all over.
It looked like they were, poised to not only make a move, but a big statement in that win at San Francisco. Right? How impressive were they in that game?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I like Jake Browning in college. We'll see how that translates to the pro. Yeah.
I was not inspired by what I saw.
Welcome to the show.
He looked okay.
Granted, it was against a good
Yeah,
defense.
I mean, we'll see.
Well, it's weird because up until yesterday, the big QB news of the week was Cleveland,
Yeah.
where Deshaun Watson's season is over.
Right.
Shoulder surgery coming. They brought Joe Flacco in for a workout today,
I
Chris.
saw that. Boy, that can't warm the hearts of Browns fans.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson's going to get the start this
Yeah.
week for Cleveland. They take on Pittsburgh, where sometimes you just have the horseshoe in your back pocket, and that's honestly what's going on with Pittsburgh this year. Everything that can possibly go their way has gone their way, and you know what? Credit to them; they've taken advantage of it so far this year. And Chris, you were high as 4.5 before the Watson injury was announced, and then obviously after
They
that,
laid me the 4, Jeff.
They
I
laid-
opened the
yeah,
4.
They
laid
laid
it
the
to me.
opening number on
Yeah.
Sunday night.
4.5. Obviously now a lot different between Watson and
Yeah.
DTR.
Yeah.
You're Cleveland 1 right now, and the total, my goodness, the total is 33.
Well, so you got to remember, they
Yeah.
wear the same black and gold that Iowa does.
Yes.
So a lot of people are mistaking them for Iowa.
I will tell you this, Chris. I actually like this game over
Oh, man. Okay.
for one reason.
The defensive prowess of both teams can score defensively.
Bingo.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Bingo. In the first matchup, when it was Watson and Pickett, Pittsburgh scored twice on defense. Now they're playing DTR, who, again, you'd have to imagine DTR is a lot better prepared for this one than he was that week 4 start, where that was weird, where Watson was okay on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday morning, it's like, oh, he's not playing. All right, great job, everybody. But, it just, this Steeler defense finds a way, and they find a way to turn you over. And this is not the type of matchup you want a kid making his second career start in.
No, I know. One disappointing thing, Minka Fitzpatrick will not play this week.
Yeah.
I think he's just such a key to that defense. But he's been out most of the year, really, or at least half of it. But when he comes back, I think this defense will be even better. Jeff, I want to back up for a minute and talk about this Cincinnati situation.
Sure.
Did the Bengals or the NFL, did they fall down on the fact that he was hurt before the game? I mean, they showed him with some sort of a wrap or something
I think
on his
the
hand.
NFL's investigating now
Yeah.
that the Bengals did not list him. Of course, if we're talking about high-end quarterbacks getting listed on injury reports late, go back a few weeks, Mahomes gets the flu. Kansas City, even though they knew he was going to play, listed him on there. Same sort of thing probably should have happened here with Burrow, where just, all right, full practice or limited practice, wrist, something along those
Yeah.
lines, even if he doesn't show up to be questionable.
Mhm.
I got to tell you, no real money showed. I mean,
No.
not like
that-
anybody knew it, Vinny.
That's true, and I think Chris's point is important because, especially, let's call it what it is. There's partnerships now.
Yep.
With gaming companies and the NFL. All right, full transparency. That's what we want. That's what the league says they want. Somebody missed something here, because clearly, this is not something that I think it was aggravated during the game.
Oh, for sure.
But
Yeah.
clearly there was an issue going into the game.
Yeah, definitely got re-aggravated on a hit by Clowney, the
Mhm.
play before the touchdown, and then obviously we saw, again, out for the year now, Joe Burrow with ligament tears in his throwing wrist.
Listen, I'm a Steeler fan, obviously. And the Bengals, I've kind of made the joke probably for the rest of I'm 67 years old, probably for the rest of my life, I'm going to be rooting against Joe Burrow, which doesn't sound like fun, but you never want to see a kid get hurt.
No.
No.
You can make the argument that he's the second best quarterback in the NFL
think he is.
when fully healthy. I mean, that's an easy argument to make. It's funny. My wife loves Joe Burrow. And I keep talking, I'm a Steeler fan. You understand that, right? But, oh, well.
Anything else on the Steeler-Brown game? No. Again, this is the lowest total we've seen in an NFL game this year at 33. And again, kid making his second career start.
Well, there were high hopes, right? Because let's remember this: he had such a terrific preseason, but that again goes and speaks to the difference between the preseason and the regular season. Again, when you're in the preseason, you may not even see the twos, much less you're certainly not going to see the ones, right? But here's what's interesting. They've obviously seen more in him, right? To give him the nod here. So the thing is that the Browns just keep doing it. They keep finding ways to overcome their offensive injuries. Their defense has carried them, and you've got now, you've got another terrific defense going with the Steelers. So, again, if you're looking at the game and you're looking at the total, pay close attention to the weather. Jeff, you got the I know there was some weather coming through the Midwest part of the country.
Looks fine to me. A kick.
I think it's coming before.
Yeah,
so
48 degrees, 8 mile an hour
so
winds. Looks fine to me.
Give a glance at that too, right? Particularly this time of year and with such a low total, right? And a game that's basically a pick 'em.
Then if I could just interrupt that one thought, I think they kind of know what PJ. Keep almost calling him PJ Harvey again. Well, they know what PJ Walker is.
Yeah,
but I think maybe they see a potential for a bit of an upside with DTR. Yeah. And I mean, listen, if you're in that locker room, and especially with that defense, you got to think, we still got a shot of making this playoff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that would be my hunch. And the coach is there every day to watch these
Absolutely.
guys,
Look, one of these two teams is making a playoff.
Yeah.
One of the two of them are getting there.
Yeah.
They're just the path to 10 wins for both of these teams. I mean, with the Steelers' remaining schedule, if they win this game, 2 times at Jake Browning. You get Arizona at home. You get the Patriots at home. That's 11. That's 11 wins for Mike Tomlin.
Seriously, one of the writers at Pittsburgh was saying all they have to do is go like 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. They're in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, their schedule. Oh, and by the way, they still have Indy, which is a winnable game on that schedule. The Steelers find a way to go to Cleveland and sweep the season series from the Browns. They are in incredible shape.
Tremendous shape.
To get into the postseason, and you know what? They'd still be tied with Baltimore in the loss column. Crazier things have happened, but the AFC North would not be totally out of play.
I'll tell you what, you were talking about quarterback injuries.
Yeah.
I still think, Jackson plays the game where he can easily get hurt. Yeah. I mean, I've been saying it for years. Listen, when he's 100% and he's on, the year he won the unanimous MVP, I was for it 100%. I thought he was amazing, hands down had to. Yeah. But I just worry about this kid's career. He doesn't take care of himself the way he should.
Let's go to another guy who's dealt with injuries, Kyler Murray. Let's go there. Arizona. I know your favorite there, Chris. Arizona at Houston. I got to give Kyler his due. He looked great last week. He looked fully healthy.
Yeah.
Warrior.
Arizona with the win against the Falcons, who just find ways to lose every single week at this point. Now to go on the road. And you know what, Chris? I'll just ask you this. Houston with that gigantic win last week in Cincinnati. They're over 500. They're currently the last playoff team in the AFC right now. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction, just how big of a favorite and how aggressively they've been bet this week. There's some 6 out there on this game now. You're at 5.5. You opened at 6. The bettors initially took Arizona all the way down to 4, and now it's coming back up the ladder. I just think this is one of those. I'm not saying Houston's going to lose this game, but from a spread perspective, this feels a little aggressive to me, and that opening 6 would have been a take if I was on time.
Well, I've had a couple guys that agree with you, and a couple guys that have bet me some pretty big money on the dog. I happen to disagree with you.
What did you make it?
I made it 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm very much anti-Arizona, mostly because I'm anti-Kyler Murray. And I'm in love with C.J. Stroud. But, a lot of the country is.
Yes.
But I got to say, I was one of the first. I think he's just terrific. And I just don't like Arizona. I don't like a lot about him. I know Vinny's going to tell you they play really hard. That is true. They play really hard. And Kyler Murray has his moments where he is fantastic. But I like Texas. I like the Texans in this game. But like I said, I got to respect the money. I got to respect the handicappers who have come in. And, Jeff, I respect you and your opinion. And there's a lot of other guys that feel the same way. But, listen, I disagree. And like the old saying goes, that's what makes horse racing.
This is going to be a very interesting for survivor pools that have made it, people that have made it this far. This is going to be a pretty common pick this week, Houston. Just looking at the board, I know there's a lot of bigger favorites there, but some have Thanksgiving
Oh,
rules,
yeah.
and Dallas and Detroit are going to have to be used this upcoming week. A lot of people have already used Miami, who play the Raiders this week and are the biggest favorite is on the board. Same deal with San Francisco. They've also been used by the majority of people as well. So don't be surprised if we see on Saturday evening that Houston's the number one survivor selection. Is to me, it's going to be a hold on to your hat. I still think Houston wins the game, but I think it's going to be a little bit sweaty if you have them.
Well, let me just tell you, 5.5, 6-point favorites lose all the time.
Right?
So
Look at last week.
Houston was a 5.5-point dog last week
I
and
didn't
won
mean
the
to
game
rub
outright.
salt in the wound there, Vinny.
Too soon.
My humble,
Too
my humble
soon.
boss.
Too soon. Well, we're used to it. Look, a good two-way betting game, as Chris pointed out, went down the ladder, now coming back up the ladder. This is a dangerous spot for Texas. As now they are a playoff contender. They've got suspensions and injuries to deal with both offensively and defensively. Cardinals are healthier overall, particularly with Murray back, and so I just this could be a tricky spot for the Texans. It wouldn't shock me if this game is closer than what some people might think.
Let's move along here to a game that I gave a big ol' cross through when as soon as I saw that it was on the schedule. I didn't even need to see the number, Chris, because I knew what it was going to be.
Yeah.
The Chargers and the Packers. Chargers are 3 in Green Bay, 44 to total. I have you know what? All I'll say is this is going to be a one-score game either direction, and I'm not sure if it's going to land 4 or not. But someone is going to have to drive the length of the field in order to tie or win this game late, and that's the main reason I want nothing to do with this game.
Well, the Chargers go from a home dog to a road favorite.
Yeah, that's always not a good sign.
That's one, and even though they lost at home last week, but they still
scoring
won
38 points.
Yeah, they did. You know, but
wow.
You know, I don't know. I mean, just on that principle alone, I just kind of like the Packers. I mean, listen, I made the number 2.5. It's 3, and even 3 with some juice on the dog. You know, so I mean, if I was out there playing, I guess I might take a 3 or take a money line. Just on principle of the home dog going to a road favorite. But a tough game here.
I think it went to 3.5 for a brief.
We did go to
right,
3.5. Yes, we did.
And then they took the 3.5, which again, it's a take of the
Makes
number.
sense.
I mean, so it's going to be one of those games that we don't need we're not going to need the Chargers by 3 here. But I think Chrissy summed it up perfectly. I mean, this Charger team, it can't keep finding ways to lose games. But this is the narrative. Look, we're in 2023. Hit the rewind to 22, 21, 20. I mean,
they do this every year.
It's the same old like people. The
it
same old
doesn't matter
Chargers.
who's playing quarterback. It doesn't matter who's coaching. It's
You
the
score-
same
you
story
score
every time.
36 and 38 points in games that you lost at home. What are you doing?
By the way, I did not bring this up on Monday, and my mistake. Dan Campbell made a decision that not a lot of coaches would have made, going for it on 4th down.
Yeah.
I thought it was the only decision in that.
Did you
game.
really?
I didn't think they were getting a stop. That was my whole thing. Is that you gotta if you're Detroit, you gotta win the game right there, because if you let the Chargers get the ball back, and also that was a 48-yard kick. It's not a gimme, even though Patterson's a good kicker.
Yeah.
I thought it was a decision that probably of the other 31 head coaches, I would say probably 26 of them kick. And
I think you're probably right.
And 2 of the 6 that wouldn't kick were in that game with Staley on the other side.
I can tell you this. The dice are not only rolling on the craps tables. Right down, win down.
Oh, did you hear what Campbell said on Detroit radio this week? That that was the 100th time in his tenure that the Lions have went on 4th down. 100 times now.
Really?
And he was asked about it on Detroit radio, and Campbell says, well, there's a reason I tell my family members to have diapers on at the beginning of the week.
I did hear that.
So,
you have to root for this guy,
hey, look,
don't you?
I was so wrong on him because that opening press conference was so ridiculous that it's like, all right, this guy's going
to be biting ankles
kneecaps.
or
Like, this
kneecaps.
guy's going to be gone in 3 years.
Yeah.
It's going to be a mess. But no,
they love him.
He's a really good coach, and that his hiring is the moment the culture changed there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's the Detroit Lions. They're going to win the NFC North.
I mean, stop and think. And Vinny and I are a little older than you, obviously. But who's the greatest coach in Detroit Lion history? It might be Wayne Fonts, who I think has a losing record.
Yeah.
You know, I think has a losing record.
Who was there with
what was
with
it?
Karras?
Oh, that's a long time ago. Jeez. Alex Karras. By the way, I had dinner at my house one night.
By the way, Fonts was one game under.
One game
66
under.
and
Okay.
67.
Okay.
Ryan,
Is Ryan on that? I don't know. What was the coach from Georgia Tech that went over there?
Bobby Ross?
Bobby Ross.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he found out about his resume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's move on though. We'll get Detroit in a little bit. They play the Bears, but I want to.
Well, here's the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, the Giants. Not good. Not good for Big Blue. But they've been taken in the market here, Chris. You opened 10 with the Commanders.
Yeah.
The Commanders favored by double digits. You didn't expect to see that at all.
I did not.
Down to 9.5, 37.5. Chris, all I'm going to say is Tommy DeVito is so badly overmatched. And it's not his fault. This is on the organization that they didn't have someone in place. And now at this point, if you're the Giants, you don't want to win another game this season. You want to go 2-15. You want to get the first pick, and you want to draft either Caleb Williams or Drake May at number 1.
Yeah.
So I understand why we're seeing Tommy DeVito again, even though there's almost no chance he could possibly win this game.
Well, I have it, and we don't ordinarily put up too many individual player props. What is the total passing yards for Danny DeVito? Is it, what could it be? A 120? Could it be 120?
Well, for Danny DeVito?
I won't tell you.
Or him either. Danny's zero.
In the subway lobby?
Look, Tommy DeVito, well, here's the problem. You have to assume.
Even Ann's laughing at me over there.
You have to assume.
Ann, you're going to get to be my age someday, too, and not know any names.
Vinny, I'm happy you were the one that said it. I wanted to say it, too.
I did it last week.
But look, by the way, Vinny, that team total loss I took on the Giants last week was absolutely disgusting when I lost that.
I didn't want to bring that up.
But Chris, it's got to be like 118.5. It's got to be something.
Okay, I said like 120. Last week, what did he have, 70 or something like that?
Last week, he had a hearty 86.
86, okay.
The week before, he had 175.
Wow.
And then, of course, that game against the Jets, we know the Giants had negative passing yards in that game.
Okay. Yeah, I guess about 118 sounds. I said 120 off the top of my head.
We're in the same ballpark on that. I will say this. I don't love laying points with teams that I don't think are any good. But if there's ever a time to lay this many points with the Commanders, this is the only time to do it.
I made it the game 10. So it's not like I'm going crazy.
And to Washington's credit, they're 4-6. They're on the outside looking into the playoffs. Sam Howell has looked significantly better than I would have expected him to, and especially with watching that Week 1 game with you guys in the back, where Sam Howell was a disaster against Arizona. Awful in that game. And to see him do what he did last week, where that is a difficult place to play in Seattle. That is a pretty good defense.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And to lead them down the field in that last drive, I know they ended up losing at the Horn, but to lead them down the field to get that game tied was awfully impressive for a young guy like that.
And I really liked Seattle in that game.
Yeah.
But so he was impressive.
I'm surprised at how well Washington is and how competitive they've been. Remember, obviously they were sellers. They traded away.
Traded
their two best defenders.
Yeah. Young and
sweat. And here they
down.
are. They go into New England and they really they beat the hell out of Patriots.
Yeah.
Right? And then they almost pull off the upset last week. This tells you what the mindset is of numbers and how key numbers are.
Oh, yeah.
It's 10. All right? So they're taking. Now, I will tell you this. The Commanders are going to be in every teaser.
And every money line parlay that exists. Yep.
This Sunday.
And of course, remember the Commanders did lose to the Giants earlier this year. That was a Tyrod Taylor start. Giants won that game 14-7.
They had and I think that
that was the game where the game where the Giants had the ball in the red zone twice in the second half and scored 0 points. That was the only reason that game was even that close.
I think the statistics, if you look at the box score, you say how did the Commanders lose this game?
Let's go to the AFC South. Let's go there. Looks like Ryan Tannehill is going to want out permanently at Tennessee. We knew he wasn't going to be the starter anymore. Will Levis, a little bit back to earth last week against Tampa Bay in a game that was not as close as the final score indicated. Tampa really dominated that game. Couldn't punch the ball in until late in the game. And then Titans go to Jacksonville. Jags a little dose of reality last week. San Francisco just pummeled them in every facet of the game last week. Chris, this is a whole touchdown in Duval. Total is 40. I actually like taking with Tennessee in this game. Just feels like a little too, at least 2 points too much. And look, if Jacksonville beats me, so be it. They should beat me in this spot, being a team that, again, with all the carnage in the AFC, has a legitimate shot in that conference now.
Well, I got to tell you, I loved the 49ers last week. That was the one game that I absolutely loved. And, it came to fruition. But I also said beforehand, and I'm going to say it here again, I think Jacksonville is poised to make a run. I think it was a horrible spot for them last week, but I think you got good coach, good quarterback, pretty decent roster, very weak division that they're in. I think Jacksonville is poised to make a run. Listen, I made the number 7.5. It's not like I'm going crazy. But I do think this team is ready to have a terrific second half of the season. So I'm going to go on record as saying that, obviously could be as wrong as anybody else. That's just a feeling I have right now with this Jacksonville team. I think they go on a run.
Jacksonville plays Houston next week as well, which all of a sudden is a gigantic game.
It's a big game.
Who they have problems with.
Houston has owned them the last
problems.
10 years.
Huge problems.
Again, this is we got a game, a take of the number, right? At 6.5, they laid 6.5, went to 7, got to 7, they took the 7. So no real shock there. I don't see that really changing. I think we'll have a toggler right here up until kickoff.
By the way, just a quick note on that Houston-Jacksonville series. Jacksonville swept them in 2017. Okay. Jacksonville's beat them one time since 2017.
Yeah.
So been a bad mix. The Jaguars playing Houston, and that's a big one next week. All right, we already mentioned the Lions. Let's go there. Lions at home. Chicago, the opponent. Justin Fields is going to be back in this one after missing a few games with that thumb injury, and the bettors have taken it down in part because of that, as high as 10.5 here, Chris, down to 8, which actually is the market high right now. It's mostly 7.5 on this one.
Good luck, I'd say to Bear. I like the Lions here. I don't know. I mean, I just don't see much back in this Bears team. But, listen, it's the NFL. Crazy things happen, especially with dogs, and anything over a touchdown could be a mountain to climb. I'm going to go to my one of my standards. If you're out there playing bingo diminishing returns, my power ratings came a lot higher, but I still open at 10. I thought 10 was a good number. And but evidently the market disagrees with me. We're down to 8 with the game. But I got to tell you, I still like the Lions in this spot.
Lions money will show.
I agree.
Sunday.
And Detroit, of course, Thanksgiving coming up. They get Green Bay on Thanksgiving this year. And look, the Lions have a legitimate shot. They do have those 2 Viking games at the end of the season, which great scheduling there that they play.
Don't understand.
Played both of those games in the last 3 weeks of the season. But the Lions have a reasonable shot to have this division already wrapped up by the time they even play Minnesota at this point. And the next 5 games, you see it on your screen right now. I mean, look at that. I mean, Chicago twice, Green Bay at New Orleans, who has all sorts of problems. And then I would argue that the Bronco game is their most difficult game in the next 5 games.
The Broncos are playing now,
Denver looks like a reasonable football team.
I'm going to talk about them, too, when we get to that one. Yeah.
We'll get to them. The Lions with a legitimate shot to have this thing wrapped up before they even play Minnesota in Week 16 in the NFC North. All right, Chris. I think we've talked about getting returned to reality. It's coming this week for the Vegas Raiders. It's coming this week. They're on the road in Miami. Now, I'm mad at myself here because this was one of those, there was no reason for me not to lay this at the beginning of the week at 10. And then 10, 10.5, 11, 11.5, 12. Forget 12.5 and 13, Chris. You went right to 13.5.
Well, yeah, you should see what my chart looks like. Yeah.
On this one, totals actually went down from 48 to 46.5. I'm not going to lay a bad number here.
No,
but even at 13.5, I still think it's fine with Miami because this is the perfect team for Miami to draw off that Kansas City game. A team that has won 2 games in a row because the opponents are inept on offense. A team that has a little bit of, I don't want to, even though some will say it's momentum, I think it's a little just, Josh McDaniels is in there. I think if you or Vinny was coaching that team the last 2 weeks, you might have been able to get the wins.
They could have elected team captains. And maybe
like
seriously.
anyone's better than McDaniels.
Yeah.
Honestly, all of our crew probably would have been better than McDaniels. But
That's how you stay on the air.
But this is the type of team, Chris, that Miami has walloped this year.
Yeah.
Mediocre on defense, mediocre on offense. That's the type of team Miami's really handled so far.
So you're saying they were the Cowboys of the AFC?
I think that is a pretty apt comparison.
I kind of agree with that. I still think this number's gone a little too high. 13.5.
It's a big one for an NFL game.
It really is. I mean, it's just, listen, I'm assuming everybody watching this show right now has watched the NFL. I mean, there's games where the team has no chance of winning, of barely even contending and staying on the field, and could cover 13.5.
Yeah.
It's just a big, big number. I could see them taking the foot off the pedal in the fourth quarter, and the back door being wide open, and the Raiders coming through with a touchdown. I just think this number's gotten too high.
I mean, this game being 38-10 at the beginning of the fourth quarter and landing 35-24 is squarely in play here.
Yeah.
I agree. That's why I was saying, that's why I'm mad at myself for not laying the 10 early.
If you laid 10, I can see that.
Yeah.
There's some value there. We're getting up to 13.5. I mean, that's a lot of points in an NFL game.
They're
It really is.
Waiting for 14.
Look, for
That's
what
exactly
it's worth.
what folks are waiting for.
For what it's worth, they did cover against Carolina as a 2-touchdown favorite earlier in the year. They covered against the Giants as a 2-touchdown favorite. So they had Denver, of course, they put 70 on, but
Yeah.
It is a lot of points. It is a lot of points for a National
Dolphins
Football
off-
League
I
game.
just think it's
Dolphins
too
off
many.
the bye. We're rested.
Yeah.
Ashawn,
It looks like
Look,
he's
he's gonna
trending
play,
toward.
right?
It's looking
Yeah.
like he's going to play.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've been a different
Yeah.
offense with him out.
Yeah.
Again, still good, but not as elite without him on the field. All right, you know what? This is also now we're getting into the big number fest here
Mm-hmm.
because Dallas is 10.5 on the road here in Charlotte against the Panthers. 42.5 on the total for this one, Chris. This one I crossed off immediately because we already saw it this year with Dallas as a 2-touchdown favorite on the road, losing outright to Arizona. Last week, they were 17.5, 18 at close. That game was never in doubt. They covered that game with ease against the Giants. But this is, again, it's a road team that's double digits here. That is a lot to ask in the NFL.
Yeah. I'll tell you the truth. I'd rather have the Raiders than the Panthers. I
Oh,
gotta
wow,
tell you,
okay.
that's me. But I told you how those two teams kind of really remind me of each other. I think Miami. Well, I don't know. I think Miami is probably a little bit better. But the Cowboys have feasted on these kind of teams. Although tell that to the Cowboys back when they played Arizona. But this is the kind of team that they would feast on. I kind of think the number's right on this game. I have no strong opinion. You cross it off right away. I could see you doing that. But I'd be hard pressed to bet on Carolina in this game.
I mean, you've got a game here where now Frank Reich takes over the play calling.
Taking the play calling back.
Again,
One great game of non-Frank Reich.
I just think that again, you've got a rookie quarterback who has, he's not been able to adjust to the NFL here. I think the Cowboys obviously. How many times are they going to hear this week? Remember the Cardinal game.
A lot more than they would
Okay.
like.
Yeah.
And so the Cowboys are going to get support here. I know they took 11, but the fact that it's still in double digits tells me that one of the reasons is that you don't really book two teasers, move off or on them, but in a case like this where the Cowboys are in just about every teaser, you got to take that into account.
Cowboys, of course, play on Thanksgiving. They'll get Washington on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
And then they begin a 5-game stretch that is absurdly difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, Philadelphia, at Buffalo, at Miami, Detroit. It is a very difficult 5-game stretch. And
Well, Seattle's the weak spot on, and that's
Right.
not an easy game.
I'll be honest with you. By then, Buffalo could
Buffalo
even
could
be
be,
the
yeah,
weak
sure.
spot on that schedule if things continue to deteriorate there like they have the last few weeks. But, boy, a brutal 5 games for Dallas. You just got to handle your business these next 2 weeks. Get to 8-3, get through that stretch at 2-3, and you're totally fine. if you're the Cowboys. All right, moving along. Let's go to the late games. Another big favorite. San Francisco this time, the big favorite against Tampa. Chris, up to 12 in this game on the Niners, 42 to total. San Francisco, they got their mojo back last week. They coming off the bye.
I think they're my highest rated team right now.
Everyone was healthy. Looked totally normal. What we expected, what we saw earlier in the year from San Francisco. And now Tampa, this is one of those, again, 10.5, 11, okay. I understand. And once we get north of 11, it's a little bit harder to lay it. But this is a brutal matchup for Tampa. The way that they play defense is the type of defense that San Francisco eviscerates. That Bulls cover 2, cover 3 style, just eviscerated usually by this type of offense from the San Francisco 49ers. I'm not going to play it at 12, but if you got a number earlier in the week, I think you're in good shape on San Fran.
I like the dog here, too. Okay. I think his number's gotten too high. And this is another one of those, and I understand what you're saying about San Francisco eviscerating this kind of defense. I don't take any issue with that. And I told you last week, I loved San Francisco. It was my favorite game of the week. But I think right now this number just has crawled a little bit over the threshold. I thought like 10 was a good number. We're up to 12. I mean, that doesn't mean I empty out if I was out there playing. But I do think it's gotten a little high. I think the back door is going to be open. You know, and Baker Mayfield, listen, I know he has his flaws and a lot of people knock him and, you know, in a lot of ways deservedly so. But I think the kid does have a lot of guts, and I think this kid's going to be out there playing and slinging it hard. I see the back door being open in this game. I think they keep it close enough. I like Tampa to cover this number.
I think this number continues to go high. I mean, I agree with Chrissy. I mean, it's awfully difficult to lay it, but I just think that the public is going to they're in love with the fact that the Niners are now healthy on both sides of the ball. They are the deepest team offensively, especially you know, when they had everybody back last week. Their offensive line was intact. Just there's no team that can match up with them in terms of maybe the Dolphins offensive when they're 100% healthy too, but you've got a more than serviceable quarterback within a system. The defense with Young's addition now, he's got a couple of games under his belt. Is, you know, again, when they're healthy, very difficult to. I've got them 100. You know, when they're 100% healthy, I've got them higher than you know, even though it's, you know, slight over Philadelphia. So, look, this is a game too. In the afternoon, it's going to get impacted by what happens in the morning, and it's going to kind of, you know, you got the snowball effect with these kinds of numbers in the afternoon.
Niners, again, you mentioned it before the 3-game losing streak, which really was coinciding with all the injuries.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They were the best team in the NFL through the first 5 weeks. I don't think anyone can argue that. Yeah. And now that they're healthy again, boy, that game when they play Philly in a few weeks, what a game that's going to be.
Great.
When those two play in 2 weeks in Philadelphia, where we'll get to the Eagles on Monday night, and the Eagles begin their murderer's row stretch on Monday night against Kansas City. But it really does feel like we're on a collision course towards San Francisco and Philadelphia playing each other again in the NFC title game, and the winner of that game being the favorite in the Super Bowl here in Vegas. It really does feel like we're heading that way.
The key to the Niners, too, based on what I'm saying, is Mostert. And he's in the lineup. They're a completely
You mean McCaffrey?
Different. No, Mostert. When he's healthy.
Not Mostert. Mostert's Miami now.
I'm not Mostert. I'm
you
sorry.
mean Debo Samuel?
Debo Samuel.
Yeah.
Debo
Okay. I knew
Samuel.
that's who you meant.
Debo Samuel. You know who I meant.
Oh,
How come man's not laughing at him for making a mistake?
She's hysterical. Ryan got me. I had him in my ear.
The Niners 12-point favorites right now against Tampa. All right, NFC West battle. Vinny, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. So, Chris, for your thoughts here, the Rams and the Seahawks. We saw this matchup in Week 1 already, and the Rams destroyed Seattle in the second half, pummeled them in that second half. Matthew Stafford is going to play. Looks like Puka Nacua is going to be good as well for Sunday. It's a pick, 46.5. I think this number's right. I think this is a flip, a complete flip in this game where the Rams have just had Seattle's number over the past few seasons, and the Rams are as healthy as they've been since week 2, basically.
I just checked. My power ratings came to the Rams a half.
There we go.
So
is someone going to buy the half on you then?
Oh, I wish, my poor friend, he passed away. He probably would. But, I think that, the early money was on the Seahawks, but I can see now, since I've been here in studio, we're back to a pick 'em. So evidently some money showed on the Rams. But this game looks like a dead pick to me. It should be a pretty good game. I'm looking forward to seeing this one.
Edge at quarterback, probably defense. Although Aaron Donald still anchors a pretty good defense here. Key is going to be, the quarterback matchup, and if they can protect Stafford the way they did in that first game, he picked them apart, especially in the second half.
I'm not going to bet this game. I think it's right. I think it's a total flip for Seattle. Where their defense has made big plays when they have had to this year. They did it against Cleveland, end up winning that game. Last week, they gave up the touchdown at the end, but the offense able to answer and get that win. This is also, again, a stretch for Seattle, and I keep saying this, where they play the Rams, who they've not played well the last few years. And in the next 4 games, San Francisco twice, Dallas and Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Good luck.
That's
Again,
0-4.
You could see that if Seattle loses this game, 6-8 is well in play for them, which would be a disaster for how this season has started for them.
Mm-hmm.
What a stretch. No favors at all getting the Niners twice in 3 weeks.
While the Niners are healthy.
Yes, exactly. Not like they could have got them in the 3-game stretch where they weren't healthy.
By the way, both Rams running backs are still out.
Yeah, Darrell Henderson's still going to be getting the load of the carries for the LA Rams. All right, Vinny, I got to do it. We go to Western New York.
Why?
The Jets and the Bills. Chris, this number hasn't moved all week.
I know.
Steady at 7. Total open 40.5 down to 39.5. I maybe I'm just a creature of habit. Maybe I'm stubborn. I think the Jets are covering this game. The only concern that I have, and we see with head coaches,
is their quarterback?
No, forget the Jet concerns. This is talking. We're going on the Buffalo side here. How much of a bump does that offense realistically get from firing Dorsey and promoting Brady?
None.
I don't think they get any, personally.
None.
I'm in the camp that it's 0.
No.
Where
They needed a scapegoat.
I agree.
100%
Dorsey was it.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I think that was the classic, we need to get rid of someone. It's going to be Dorsey. And I think Dorsey got the short end of the stick on that one.
I agree 100%.
This whole thing to me in this one is just a matter of, and this you're going to love this, Vinny, are the Jets capable of scoring more than 13 points in an NFL game?
Offensively, no.
And the answer to that is probably not. But again, we're talking about a game where the first time they played Buffalo, they scored 22 in that first game. Granted,
Is that the game they had 2 offensive touchdowns?
That was 2 total touchdowns. They had special teams.
No, they have one game with 2 offensive touchdowns.
You run the punt
It was
return.
two. It was 2 in Buffalo. It was 2 against Denver, but only one of those was on offense.
I think they had one game with 2 offensive touchdowns. I mean, I could. You're having trouble finding that out.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
Chris, I don't think
that.
I might be wrong.
Wasn't it the first meeting was that first Monday night game of the year?
Yeah, there's the Garrett Wilson touchdown, and then Gibson brought the kick back.
Amazing
and then,
catch by Garrett
and then
Wilson.
they've only had one. They've had no games with
no games with 2
touchdowns.
offensive touchdowns.
Yeah, they've had 2 games with 2 touchdowns, Chris.
Yeah.
We're going crazy here with 2 touchdowns.
But those weren't all. But
no,
those
the
weren't
second
offensive.
the second one was a defensive touchdown.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. I mean, I listen. I made the game 7.
Okay.
Right on the number. I have no opinion in this one. I don't know what the heck's going to happen. I don't know what to do with Buffalo. I mean, boy, they could be the most disappointing team of the year. They got to be right there.
I think they even with now Cincinnati and Buffalo are 2 very interesting case studies.
Cincinnati has a reason.
Because Cincinnati's a disappointment, but you know what? When Joe Burrow is only healthy for 3 games, you actually have an excuse on that. Why your season went haywire. For Buffalo, there's no realistic excuse. Even with Allen being a high turnover guy yet again, this is what Josh Allen has been, other than that 8-game stretch from the end of the season 2 years ago through that playoff game until the Green Bay game a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been a high turnover guy, but Buffalo's gotten away with it because of the elite talent they've had on defense and Josh Allen's ability.
Yeah, he
Now
does
they
make a
don't-
lot of good plays, too.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
No, look, they all the analytics numbers still have Buffalo as a top 3 offense in the NFL. But, Vinny, we talked about this a few weeks ago. That Buffalo defense, with no Trey White, with no Milano,
Yeah.
not the same. And
Yeah, the Milano might be an excuse.
Milano's the heartbeat. Milano's
no
been the
question.
heartbeat
He's
of
the
that
quarter-
defense for
he's-
3 years,
he's
and
the
they are not the
captain.
same.
He's the quarter. Everything defensively goes through him. Guys, the thing about it is the team chemistry-wise, there's something not right too. I mean, when the offense has a players-only meeting last week, and then the first play of the game, or the first play from scrimmage is a turnover, right? And they never recover, and then turnovers throughout the night. Look, you have to give full marks because the Broncos look like they've turned quite a few things around, gone in the opposite direction. But I think there's a lot of finger pointing going on in that clubhouse, and clearly not only are the players not in sync, but neither is the coaching staff. Now that said, if the Bills were right against this Jets offense, this would be 10. Especially in a payback,
Probably would. Yeah.
in a payback situation. But again, the Jets. I talked about how deep the Niners' offense is. The Jets' defense is probably the deepest defense in the league. It's not just a good defense; it's a deep defense. Unfortunately, they're on the field 3/4 of the game, 80% of the game.
We did this last year with the Broncos, where reach 20 points, you're one of the best teams in the NFL. We did this with Denver a year ago. It's the same thing with the Jets. What's the one common denominator between those teams? Well, Mr. Hackett, how you doing? But it's and for the Jets, it's just one of those where if you can find a way to somehow score 20, you better win this game. Which it might take them 8 quarters to score 20 against anyone at this point. But again, it's a waste of a defense that is, to me, them and San Francisco are the 2 best defenses in the NFL, with Baltimore right behind them.
The Ravens are right.
And the Jets are just wasting it because they have bad offensive play calling, they have a bad quarterback, and they just can't. And last week it was the penalties. Every single scoring drive was impacted by a penalty. Penalty took a touchdown off the board. Penalty put them in 2nd and 20 when they would have had 1st and goal. It's all self-inflicted. Everything is self-inflicted with this team. All right, let's go to Sunday night. This is a really interesting game. And a few weeks ago when this was kept in Sunday night, I was like, wait, well, what are we doing here? Why is this game on Sunday night? But now, Josh Dobbs comes to Minnesota.
Good game.
They've won both of the games he's played the majority in. And for the Broncos, I got to give Denver a lot of credit because this looked like an abject mess.
Yeah.
And then whatever turned on that Thursday night in Kansas City, I know they lost that game. But whatever turned defensively for them, because they held KC to 19 points in that game. Since then, that defense has actually been good. They were good against Green Bay. They were amazing against Kansas City the second time, holding them to 9. And then last week, they forced the turnovers that you're supposed to against Buffalo right now. And here they are, sitting at 4-5 as a 2.5-point favorite in this game, Chris, with a 4-game stretch that will involve a home game against Cleveland next week. That's winnable now with the QB situation. A game in Houston, which all of a sudden looks like a really good game. Yep. Regardless.
For both teams.
Yeah. And then they play the Chargers, which we know anything's in play when you play the Chargers here in 2023, or honestly any year in the last 20.
Okay, first of all, I made the game 3
Okay.
this week. So not, a little bit high, but not too bad. I think Jacksonville's going to go on a run. I think Denver's going on a run.
There we go.
And I'm going to tell you why. I think it's coaching. And, just kind of an effect of the whole team. Peyton originally looked like a horrible matchup with Russell Wilson. And I don't know if we can blame Hackett for Wilson's woes last year. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. But it looked like he was lost, and they were talking about replacing him and everything else. But this kind of shows you what good coaching can do, how important a coach is. I mean, Peyton is a really good coach. And this team, all of a sudden, they found their stride. And I think this team, I think they're going to make a playoff run. I don't know if they can make the playoffs, but I think they're going to make a run. But I think this team right now is poised to make a move the next couple of weeks. And it's starting with this game. Like I said, I only made it 3, so it's not like a huge number move for me. But I do think emotionally, mentally, I think this is absolutely the right side this week. And Josh Dobbs, great story. Looks like a great kid in a million different ways. We kind of know what he is.
Yeah.
He's had a couple of really good games. I don't think it's sustainable. I think Russell Wilson with Peyton now, he and Peyton kind of on the same page. I think that is sustainable. And I'd look for Denver to win this game and go on a couple game winning streak.
Just eyeballing some numbers, and even just simplistic numbers here with Denver. Russell Wilson's tied for 3rd in the NFL in passing touchdowns.
It's coming.
He's had a good month.
He's
a better month.
Really, after that Jet game, whatever it was, the light switch flipped on for this Bronco team, and they have been a totally different team since the first 5 weeks of the season.
Well, I think Chris brought up Dobbs. Great story, no doubt about it. He's right on the money. He's still learning this team, though, right?
Yeah.
He's still, and film is a great equalizer. I don't know if Jefferson is going to be bad. There's talk of
questionable
Jefferson,
right now.
He's been upgraded to questionable, which is that's important. Certainly willing to follow that. Does this game get to 3? Probably. I think there's going to be continued support. Now, is that a take back? In all likelihood, yeah. This is the primetime game, so everything will be going to it. But look, the Broncos, for a team that was completely dysfunctional that first month and a half, they're a very together group right now. I mean, you got to watch body language and chemistry because it really. You could say, well, talent wins out and everything. Yeah, talent wins out, but something. When teams are in sync and the chemistry's right, it carries teams. So that's something to bear watching here. But the Jefferson, we got to really need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, questionable right now. I am in Minnesota with a real shot to make the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
which
great
they
run.
do too. Right?
As soon as Cousins went down, I was like, okay, well, that's it. It's over. And they've won both games without Cousins. They haven't lost with Jefferson out also, which is kind of amazing as well. But here we are, Denver 2.5. By the way, I didn't bet this one, but I would lean to what you were saying. I think this is probably a comeback to earth, at least for a week for Dobbs. And Denver looks like a real team. They look like a legitimate back-end playoff team in the AFC right now over the last month.
Tough out.
Let's go to the big one on Monday, the Super Bowl rematch. The Taylor Swift Bowl.
Oh,
For Vinny, there we go. See,
I say it.
There we go. Philadelphia at Kansas City. Kansas City's 2.5, Chris. You guys are the only flat 2.5 on KC. It's mostly 2.5 minus 20 in the market. With that said, I am on an island, I feel like, in this game. I know that even though early action was on Philadelphia taking it down to from 3 to 2.5, I think the Eagles are the better football team. And unless if Kansas City's defense continues to play at the high level that they have, and I'm not sure that that's going to continue all the way through, everyone's been going after Philly. Hey, they don't look as good. This 8-1 is not. It's a fraudulent 8-1. All right, you know what? Fine. They're still 8-1. They still have the best record in the NFL, and they're one really stupid Jalen Hurts decision away against the Jets from being 9-0. I think Philadelphia proves that they're the best team in the league right now. I think they go to Arrowhead, win this game outright against Kansas City, and that is a lot for me to say because whenever it's short of 3 with KC, it's almost automatic that I'm laying it with the Chiefs with Mahomes.
My numbers come to 1.
Yeah, okay.
So it just I kind of like Philly in this game. Again, you're cutting it pretty close.
Yeah.
But when I made my parlay cards this week, I used them 2.5 on the card, which okay, that made sense. But on the ties win card, which is usually our most vulnerable card, I used 3, and I decided not to. I used 2.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of a tell right there. I did not want people taking 3.5, which on a ties win, of course, that's what you're doing. I did not want them taking 3.5 on the Eagles with me. So I had my choice there. So I kind of favor the Eagles. I just looked at my power ratings. I have them exactly the same. But I only give Kansas City 1 for home field And it's not that they're easy to beat at home; they're tough to beat anywhere.
Right.
I mean, it's the difference between the two. And it's like, if they go into, Denver, or Indianapolis, or Green, pick a team. They're vulnerable this week. Not really.
Right.
No, they play great on the road. But they listen. They're going to be tough to beat at home because they're tough to beat anywhere. But I think I have these two teams rated equal. I'd probably take, if I was out there playing, I'd probably take a money line.
Money line on
with
Philly.
Plus 30, Jeff.
I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. By the way, for KC, before we wrap things up, the way that after this week, because of the injury to Burrow, their schedule is really easy, all things considered. Here in Vegas, be more Chief. There'll be plenty of Chief fans for that one.
Oh, absolutely.
In Green Bay, Packers are not any good. Buffalo at Arrowhead. Buffalo's played them well at times, but who knows? At New England, the Raiders at home, Cincinnati at home, and at the Chargers.
Wow. They can sweep that easily.
If Kansas City wins this week, the AFC playoffs yet again will go through Kansas City, which will mean Patrick Mahomes still will not have played a road playoff game.
Is that right?
After all, still hasn't played a road playoff game. Been playing quarterback since 2018. No road playoff games yet for Patrick Mahomes.
The
Pretty
Kansas
amazing.
City Chiefs need to find a reliable, consistent go-to receiver.
That
They've
is not
yet to
Travis
find-
Kelce.
And that other than
Yeah.
right. I mean, because what makes Travis Kelce better is, look, let's face it, you've got to have another weapon. He gets double teamed. He's great. Don't get me wrong, but they're gonna need to solve that.
100%. All right. There's our 2 hours. Football Friday here at the South Point studio on Sports by the Book. Alex White and I are back tomorrow at 8 in the morning. Also, programming note for this show next week. We are on Wednesday. It'll be a Football Wednesday next week from 2
There's games on Thursday, right? So, yeah.
Why?
That holiday with the turkey.
Yeah, that's and a lot of games Friday,
yes,
too.
and a big card on Friday in
a
college.
big card on Friday. And a pro game
There's a
on
pro
Friday.
game on Friday.
Yeah, the whole country will be graced with Zach Wilson on Black Friday. Everyone
Wonderful.
be excited for that as
can't
the
wait.
Jets host the Dolphins in the first ever NFL Black Friday game. Shout out to the crew as always, Ann, Jerry, Ryan, Sean. Great work back there. Vinny, Chris, pleasure as always. We'll see you again on Wednesday for
Yes,
Football
sir.
Wednesday. Amazingly,
Yes, sir.
final week of college football's regular season. Amazingly enough. Crazy.
I'm a little depressed. I gotta tell you.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again tomorrow at 8 in the morning here on Sports by the Book. If you got any plays tonight, good luck.